It was a crisp autumn morning in New York City, the kind where the leaves crunched underfoot and the skyline shimmered against a pale blue sky. Inside the ABC studios, the set of The View buzzed with its usual energy. The audience shuffled into their seats, clutching their coffee cups, whispering excitedly about the day's lineup. The show had been a staple of American daytime TV for decades, a place where hot topics met hotter tempers. Today, though, promised something different, something explosive. Sylvester Stallone, the Rocky Balboa himself, was scheduled to appear as a guest. The man who'd punched his way through Hollywood's toughest scripts was stepping into a ring of a different kind. A live TV debate with Whoopi Goldberg and the rest of the panel. Backstage, Stallone adjusted his signature black leather jacket, cracking his knuckles like he was prepping for a fight scene. At 78, he still carried that rugged charisma. Gray hair swept back, jawline chiseled from years of grit and determination. He wasn't here to promote a movie, though. No, Sly had something to say. Word had leaked that he'd been vocal on social media about his views on cancel culture, political correctness, and what he called the softening of America. The producers at The View had caught wind of it and invited him on, sensing a ratings bonanza. They weren't wrong. Across the hall, Whoopi Goldberg sat in her dressing room, sipping herbal tea and skimming the day's notes. At 69, she was the unofficial queen of the panel, sharp-tongued, unapologetic, and fiercely progressive. She'd seen guests come and go, from politicians to pop stars, and she'd never shied away from a confrontation. When she heard Stallone was coming, she'd raised an eyebrow. "Rocky, huh?" she'd muttered to Joy Behar earlier that week. "Let's see if he can take a punch as well as he throws one." The other co-hosts, Joy, Sunny Hostin, and Sarah Haynes, had chuckled, but there was an edge to it. They knew Sly wasn't the type to back down. The audience didn't know what to expect. Some clutched signs reading, "We love you, Rocky," while others whispered about whether Whoopi would school him on live TV. The cultural divide in America had never felt more palpable. Red states versus blue, old-school toughness versus new-age sensitivity. Stallone, a self-made icon of the American dream, represented a bygone era of grit and glory. Whoopi, a trailblazer in her own right, stood for a modern ethos of inclusion and accountability. It was a clash of titans waiting to happen. As the show's theme music kicked in, the lights dimmed, and the cameras rolled. Whoopi strode out first, her dreadlocks swaying, her smile wide but her eyes sharp. The co-hosts followed, waving to the crowd. Then came Stallone. The audience erupted as he walked onto the set, towering over the table with that familiar swagger. He shook hands with each host, his grip firm, his grin easy. "Good to be here," he rumbled, settling into the guest chair. The applause died down, and Whoopi leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand. "So, Sylvester," she began, her tone playful but pointed. "You've been making some noise out there. Care to tell us why you think America's gone soft?" The crowd hushed. Stallone's eyes narrowed slightly, and a faint smirk tugged at his lips. He leaned back, crossing his arms. "Well, Whoopi," he said, his voice low and deliberate, "I think it's about time we stopped apologizing for being strong." The gauntlet was thrown. The stage was set, and America was watching. The studio lights blazed down on the set of The View, casting sharp shadows across the table where Sylvester Stallone and Whoopi Goldberg faced off. The air crackled with anticipation. Whoopi's opening salvo had landed, and now it was Stallone's turn to swing. He leaned forward slightly, his massive frame filling the chair, and fixed Whoopi with a steady gaze. The audience held its breath, sensing the shift from pleasantries to something rawer. "Look," Stallone began, his voice gravelly but calm. "I grew up in a country where you worked hard, you fought for what you believed in, and you didn't cry about it if someone disagreed. Now, you can't say a damn thing without somebody clutching their pearls and calling you a monster. That's not strength. That's weakness masquerading as virtue." His words hit the room like a jab, quick and precise. A few audience members clapped, while others gasped. Whoopi's eyebrows shot up, but she didn't flinch. "Hold up, Sly," she interjected, raising a hand. "You're talking about a time when a lot of folks, people like me, didn't even get a seat at the table. You think it's weakness to call out injustice? To say, hey, maybe we don't need to keep stepping on necks to feel big? Her tone was sharp, cutting through the applause like a blade. The crowd erupted again, some cheering for Whoopi, others murmuring in support of Stallone. Joy Behar smirked, leaning in to add, yeah, Sylvester. Sounds like you're nostalgic for the good old days that weren't so good for everybody. Stallone didn't blink. I'm not saying things were perfect, he shot back, turning his head slightly toward Joy. But we didn't fix it by whining. We fixed it by building something, by getting up every day and proving we belonged. Now it's all about tearing down instead of building up. You want to talk about necks? How about the necks of every kid out there who's afraid to speak their mind because they'll get canceled? His voice rose, that rocky fire igniting, and the audience roared, half in agreement, half in protest. Sunny Hostin jumped in, her lawyerly precision slicing through the chaos. Cancel culture isn't real, Sylvester. It's accountability. People face consequences for what they say. You're a public figure. You know that better than anyone. Stallone chuckled, a low, rumbling sound. Consequences? Sure. But when did consequences turn into exile? You say something edgy, something true, and suddenly you're done. I've been knocked down plenty on screen and off. I got back up. America used to do that too. Whoopi leaned back, crossing her arms now, mirroring Stallone's earlier stance. So what's your solution, tough guy? We just let everybody run their mouth, no matter who it hurts? Freedom's not free. It comes with responsibility. Her eyes glinted with challenge, daring him to swing harder. Stallone didn't hesitate. Responsibility's fine. But when you start policing every word, every thought, you're not free anymore. You're just scared. And I didn't fight my way out of Hell's Kitchen to live in a country of cowards. The room exploded. Shouts of amen clashed with boos, and the producers in the control booth grinned. Ratings were soaring. Sarah Haynes tried to play peacemaker, her voice drowned out by the noise. Okay, let's take a breath here, she started, but neither Stallone nor Whoopi was backing off. The bell had rung, and this was only round one. The American divide was on full display, and the crowd was eating it up. The View studio had transformed into a verbal boxing ring, and the crowd was on its feet. Sylvester Stallone and Whoopi Goldberg were locked in a showdown that felt less like a talk show segment and more like a pay-per-view event. The co-hosts flanked them, throwing jabs of their own, but it was clear the main event was Sly versus Whoopi. The cameras zoomed in, catching every flicker of expression. Stallone's steely determination, Whoopi's fiery defiance. America was glued to its screens, from truck stops in Texas to coffee shops in California. Whoopi wasn't about to let Stallone's last punch land unanswered. You're talking about courage, Sylvester? She said, her voice rising with that signature edge. Courage isn't just swinging your fists or mouthing off. It's standing up when the deck's stacked against you, when the system says you don't count. You think people are scared? Try being black, female, and loud in this country for 5 minutes. That's not cowardice, that's survival. The audience erupted, a wave of cheers crashing against a smattering of boos. Joy Behar nodded vigorously, muttering, "Preach, sister," while Sunny Hostin clapped. Stallone tilted his head, unfazed. I respect that, Whoopi. I do. You've fought your fights and I've fought mine. But don't tell me survival's about shutting people up. You want to talk systems? I came from nothing, zip. No silver spoon, no handouts. I got told no 1,000 times, got my face bashed in, and kept going. That's the America I know. Now, you say one wrong thing and it's game over, no second chance, no redemption. That's not survival. That's a guillotine. The word guillotine hung in the air, sharp and heavy. The crowd gasped, then roared. Whoopi's eyes widened for a split second before narrowing again. A guillotine? She repeated, incredulous. You're comparing getting criticized to losing your head? Oh, come on, Sly. You're a millionaire movie star. You're not exactly bleeding in the streets. Laughter rippled through the audience, but Stallone didn't crack a smile. It's not about me, he fired back. It's about the kid flipping burgers who gets fired because he tweeted something stupid. It's about the guy who can't pay his rent because his business got boycotted over a bad joke. That's who's bleeding. Sunny Hostin leaned in, her tone measured but firm. Those stupid tweets can hurt people, Sylvester. Words have power, you know that. You've built a career on them. Stallone nodded slowly. Sure they do. But so does forgiveness. So does grit. We used to take a hit and keep moving. Now we just point fingers and cry victim. The audience split again, half cheering, half jeering. Sarah Haynes tried once more to steer the ship, her voice bright but strained. Okay, let's pivot. Maybe talk about your new project? No one listened. The fight was too good. Whoopi leaned forward, locking eyes with Stallone. You want forgiveness? Earn it. Own what you say and take the heat. Don't cry about a guillotine when all you're getting is a timeout. The crowd roared louder, a chaotic mix of support and dissent. Stallone smirked, that rocky glint in his eye. I've taken heat my whole life, Whoopi. I'm still standing. Can you say the same for the folks you're defending? It was a haymaker and the studio shook with the impact. The bell hadn't rung yet. This bout was far from over. The View set was a powder keg, and Sylvester Stallone had just lit the fuse. His last line, "Can you say the same for the folks you're defending?" hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. The audience was a sea of noise, cheers and boos crashing into each other like waves in a storm. Whoopi Goldberg's face tightened, her lips pressing into a thin line before she unleashed her counterattack. The cameras swiveled, capturing every second of what was shaping up to be daytime TV's most unforgettable brawl. You want to talk standing, Sly? Whoopi said, her voice low and lethal. I've been standing since the day I was born. Through every no, every door slammed in my face. Every time someone said I didn't belong. The people I'm defending, they're not crumbling because they're weak. They're fighting a war you don't even see from your mansion in the hills. The crowd erupted, a tidal wave of applause surging from the progressive faithful. Joy Behar pounded the table, shouting, "Yes, Whoopi, yes," while Sunny Hostin nodded with a steely exactly. Stallone didn't budge. His eyes stayed locked on Whoopi, unyielding, like Rocky staring down Apollo Creed. I see plenty, he growled. I see a country so obsessed with being right that we've forgotten how to be tough. You think I don't know struggle? I slept in a bus station, pawned my dog to eat, wrote Rocky when nobody gave a damn. I'm not here for me. I'm here for the people who don't get a second shot because the mob's already buried them. His voice cracked with emotion, and a hush fell over the room. Even his critics couldn't deny the weight of it. Whoopi blinked, caught off guard for a fleeting moment, but she recovered fast. That's a nice story, Sly, but don't act like you're the only one who's climbed a mountain. The difference is I don't romanticize the climb. I fix the damn ladder so others can get up too. You're mad at the mob? Maybe the mob's mad because they're tired of being stepped on. The audience roared again, split down the middle, half chanting, Whoopi, while others yelled, Rocky. Then came the knockout. Stallone leaned in, his voice dropping to a rumble that silenced the room. You want to fix the ladder? Stop kicking it out from under the people still climbing. You don't build by burning, you build by bleeding. I bled for every inch, and I'll be damned if I let this country turn into a place where effort means nothing and whining means everything. He slammed his fist on the table. Not hard, but enough to make the water glasses jump. The sound echoed, a thunderclap of defiance. The studio froze, then exploded. People leapt to their feet, some cheering wildly, others shouting in protest. Whoopi stared at him, her jaw tight, her eyes blazing. For a split second, it looked like she might fire back, but the commercial break bell rang. A mercy timeout. The producers cut to ads, leaving America hanging on the edge of its seats. Backstage, the crew scrambled, buzzing about the viral moment they just witnessed. Twitter, X, was already ablaze. Stallone just ended Whoopi. Versus, Whoopi held her ground. The divide was deeper than ever, and the final round was still to come. The commercial break ended, and the View studio lights flared back to life. The audience was still buzzing, a live wire of excitement and division. As Sylvester Stallone and Whoopi Goldberg sat across from each other, the table between them a no man's land of unspoken blows. The co-hosts, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, and Sarah Haynes, shifted in their seats, sensing the segment's end but knowing the fight wasn't over. America watched, from diner TVs in Ohio to living rooms in LA, as two icons stood their ground in a battle that felt bigger than the show itself. Whoopi broke the silence first, her voice steady but laced with fire. "You talk a big game about bleeding, Sly, and I respect your hustle, I do. But don't sit there and tell me the answer is going back to some macho fantasy where nobody cares who gets hurt. We're not in a movie. Real people bleed too, and they deserve a voice, not a fist." The crowd cheered, a swell of support rising from her corner. Joy nodded, adding, "She's right. Progress isn't punching down." Stallone exhaled through his nose, a bull ready to charge, but he kept his cool. "I'm not punching down, Whoopi. I'm lifting up. You think I don't care? I care about the guy who's got nothing left because he's too afraid to try. You want to give people a voice? Give them a spine first. Stop coddling and start challenging." His words landed hard, and his fans in the audience roared, fists pumping. Sarah Haynes tried to interject, "Let's find some common ground here." But the train was off the rails. Whoopi leaned forward, her eyes locked on Stallone's. "A spine? I got one, thanks. And so do the people I fight for. The difference is we're not afraid to admit the world's not fair, and we're fixing it, not flexing on it." The applause was deafening, a testament to her staying power. But Stallone wasn't done. He stood up, towering over the table, his voice booming. "Fix it by making it stronger, not softer. I didn't destroy anything today, I built something. A wake-up call. America's still got a pulse. Let's not flatline it." He pointed at the crowd, then sat back down, arms crossed, a warrior at rest. The room detonated, cheers, boos, and everything in between. Whoopi shook her head, a wry smile tugging at her lips. "You're something else, Sly," she said, almost under her breath. The segment ended there, the theme music kicking in as the cameras panned out. The co-hosts waved, Stallone gave a nod, and Whoopi raised a hand in acknowledgement. No hugs, no handshakes, just mutual respect forged in the fire of combat. Backstage, the producers high-fived, ratings were through the roof. X lit up with memes. Stallone as Rocky knocking out Whoopi, Whoopi as a queen slaying a dragon. Pundits on cable news debated who won, but the truth was Messier. Stallone had landed a cultural gut punch, a rallying cry for resilience. Whoopi had held the line, a beacon for justice. America saw itself in both rugged individualism versus collective accountability, two sides of the same coin. As Stallone left the studio, fans mobbed him for selfies. Whoopi stayed behind, sipping tea, already prepping for tomorrow. Neither was destroyed, both were unbreakable. And that was the real story. A clash of titans that didn't end in a knockout, but in a mirror held up to a nation still fighting to define itself. The dust had barely settled from Sylvester Stallone's explosive face-off with Whoopi Goldberg on The View, but the aftershocks were just beginning. By the next morning, March 19, 2025, the clash was the talk of every corner of America. Clips flooded YouTube, racking up millions of views, while X buzzed with hashtags like hashtag Stallone vs. Whoopi and hashtag Rocky Rumble. In diners from Alabama to Alaska, truckers and waitresses argued over hash browns about who destroyed whom. On Fox News, pundits hailed Stallone as a patriot defending the American spirit. On MSNBC, analysts praised Whoopi for standing tall against outdated bravado. The nation was split, and the fire was spreading. Stallone didn't waste time basking in the glow. He hit the gym that afternoon, posting a grainy Instagram video of himself pounding a heavy bag, captioned, "Keep swinging, America. Don't let 'em knock you out." The post went viral, amassing likes from blue-collar workers, veterans, and even a few celebrities like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who commented, "Yo, Sly, you brought the heat." Conservative radio hosts replayed his spine, not coddling line like a battle cry, while gym bros across the country turned it into a workout mantra. Stallone wasn't just a guest anymore, he was a symbol. Meanwhile, Whoopi returned to The View the next day, unfazed. "Yesterday was a doozy, huh?" she quipped to the audience, earning laughs and cheers. "Slice got his way, I've got mine. That's America, loud and messy." She didn't back down, doubling down on her call for accountability in a segment that dissected the debate. "Toughness isn't just muscle," she said, tapping her temple. "It's here. And it's knowing when to lift someone up instead of knocking him down." Her fans rallied, flooding X with #WhoopiWisdom and sharing stories of their own struggles. Single moms, minorities, dreamers who saw her as their champion. The co-hosts weighed in too. Joy Behar called Stallone a relic with a good right hook, while Sunny Hostin argued the data. Cancel culture's a myth. Only 1% of firings tie to social media outrage. Sarah Haynes, ever the optimist, tweeted, "Can't we all just agree they're both legends?" But agreement wasn't the point. The clash had tapped into something primal. Red meat for a country wrestling with its identity. Bars in Texas hosted watch parties to re-air the episode. College campuses in New York held debates about strength versus sensitivity. Even kids on TikTok got in on it, remixing Stallone's fist slam with Whoopi's, fixed the latter line into viral soundbites. A week later, Stallone and Whoopi crossed paths again. Unplanned. At a charity event in LA for underprivileged youth. Cameras caught them exchanging a nod, a faint smile passing between them. No words, just a quiet acknowledgement. X lit up with speculation. Truce. Respect. The truth was simpler. They'd fought their fight, and neither needed to prove more. Stallone donated $1 million to the cause. Whoopi mentored kids on stage. Two warriors, two paths still building in their own way. America didn't get a winner, just a mirror. The fire burned on, fueled by a nation that loved a good scrap as much as it loved a good story.